Juice WRLD, one of the most popular and up-and-coming rappers in the game today, had died suddenly after getting into the Chicago airport. But despite everyone thinking he's gone, there are some who feel he's alive. And what's more, they feel there is proof in regards to him faking his death. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So what's the official story?
That Juice WRLD, quote, suffered what appears to be some type of medical emergency, according to the people traveling with him.
Alright, before we go all conspiracy theory on everything, let's talk about the official story and everything that happened there. In early December, Juice WRLD was chartering a private plane that had him landing in Midway Airport in Chicago, Illinois. Everything seemed to be going well until he was making his way through the airport, and all of a sudden he started to have a seizure. People noticed this and got medical personnel to him. At this point, he was not just having a seizure, but convulsions, and he was bleeding out of his mouth and nose. Thankfully, at the time, the medical personnel suspected something that was triggered by illegal substances, so they gave him things that would help stop an overdose from occurring in his body. Somewhat stable, he was taken to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oaklawn. Once there, he was treated by a properly equipped medical staff, even waking up at one point during the healing process. However, at 3:14 a.m., Juice WRLD passed on.
Lil Nas X, YBN Cordae, Trippie Redd, and Lil Yachty shared their condolences.
That was not the end of the story, far from it. You see, during this whole time, police were trying to figure out what happened in the airport, and when they figured out that Juice WRLD must have taken something to induce the state he was in, they questioned his girlfriend who was there with him. She noted that he had a drug problem, and that was all they needed to search all of his bags for various contraband that were there because of the private plane. The search turned up 41 vacuum-sealed bags of marijuana, 6 bottles of prescription codeine cough syrup, 2 9mm pistols, a .40 caliber pistol, a high-capacity ammunition magazine, and metal-piercing bullets. 2 men identified by the police as working security for Higgins were charged with misdemeanor offenses for illegally possessing the guns and ammunition, noted a source. So as you can see, not only was Juice WRLD gone, but he left a pretty sizable weight behind, which makes you wonder, did he really die, or did he just play the system so he couldn't be caught right there? He said he wanted to fake his death.
2017, in which Juice WRLD said, "My goal is to get overly famous, shine for a couple years, then fake my death."
So it's pretty grim to think about that anyone would want to fake their death. I mean, think of the planning that it would take, the various amounts of payoff and smoke and mirrors that you would need in order to make it work. It wouldn't be easy, and it likely wouldn't be fun. Plus, if you did a single thing wrong, you'd be in trouble and likely get put away for various things, alongside the things you were likely going to be put away for anyway. But we'll get into that later. Getting back to the task at hand, why do we think that Juice WRLD faked his own death? Simple, he told us he wanted to. In a tweet from April 25th, 2017, he noted, and I quote, "My goal is to get overly famous, shine for a couple of years, and then fake my death." Look it up. It's likely still there, unless someone erased the account. He said it, and that's not just something you say, especially when you're spelling out how you're going to fake your death. Now sure, he could have just been in a mood that day. He could have just thought, hey, maybe this would get some attention. And to be fair, this was before he made it famous via his contract with Interscope Records. So maybe he felt this was the best path for him to be on, or something like that. But when you analyze the tweet, he kind of did what he wanted to do. He did get overly famous in many aspects, including being labeled one of the rising stars of the rap world. He had multiple #1 hits, a #1 album, some key collaborations, and more. Plus, since his time in the rap scene, he was technically in it for a few years. So he got famous, was shining for a while. What's step 3 again? Again, it's easy for someone to look at that tweet and go, he was just kidding, or that he was just saying what was on his mind. But you can't turn away from the facts that his sequence of events did come to pass in their own way. So why not say that he wanted to try and enact the third, the 21 Club.
Juice says, "We ain't making it past 21, which again was the exact age he passed away.
If you want more proof that Juice WRLD may have faked his own death, you need to look at some of the lyrics that he sang about not so long ago, mainly in his song Legends. He noted a certain thing about the life expectancy of certain rappers. What's the 27 Club? We ain't making it past 21. Juice WRLD died just 6 days after his 21st birthday. Coincidence or something more? Let's discuss. You see, in the last few years, there have been a slew of tragic passings in the world of rap, including many passing before and just after their 21st birthday, such as Juice WRLD's friend XXXTentacion. He sang that song as a tribute to him of sorts, and noted how there are many rappers out there who won't live past that age for one reason or another. To be clear, Juice WRLD and X died in very different ways. Juice WRLD had died via a substance abuse problem that choked out his body, while X died because of a robbery gone wrong. But no matter the way the facts remain, they didn't make it past 21, unless you believe he faked his death. death, which may have been a thought in his mind after he lost his friend, because he experienced firsthand of sorts what it's like to have it all, be a person that was a rising star in the industry, and then have it snuffed out like it was nothing. In fact, during an interview, he noted that the fame of everything hadn't gotten to him yet. I haven't really felt like, oh my god, what just happened? But I think it's a good thing, because when people get caught up, they can get lost in the moment. That can ruin somebody. That last line in particular was a curious one to say. Not that he is wrong, far from it. Many singers, not just rappers, have gotten their heads swelled in regards to their fame and power, and they let it destroy them in terms of their careers, their lives, and more. So what if he saw this coming? What if he realized that he was likely one of the next ones to try and go farther than he should have, and decided to stop while he was ahead? If he had the planning and the foresight, it would have allowed him to set everything up and get out before life got to him. It's not impossible. Improbable, but not impossible. Or possibly he had another reason for getting out. Maybe he was thinking less than the 21 years he wanted to live beyond, and instead thought of the 21 years he might have stayed in jail if he was alive. The feds were waiting for him.
Went into cardiac arrest at the airport. We now know that happened while federal authorities were searching his luggage.
What is honestly getting lost in this whole issue about Juice WRLD is that he was in an airport where federal agents were waiting on him and his private jet, and they were the ones who helped police search the bags and get the contraband that ended up in certain rests of airport personnel and such. But that begs the question, how did the feds know that there was going to be contraband on the plane? Sure, you could ask this in general sense and garner that they had information that led to a warrant to search the plane and get the contents of Juice WRLD's bag, but doesn't it feel a little convenient that they were waiting for him to land so they could snatch him up, and then the moment they started to approach, he suddenly gets a seizure and dies in a hospital a short time afterward? Doesn't that feel convenient for anyone here? I mean, think of the timing there, just on the Juice WRLD side, that he croaked before the police and feds could even detain him. You really want to tell me that's a coincidence? Or did someone tip Juice WRLD off that the feds were going to get him, and so he decided to try and pull off a stunt to get out of his reach before he could vanish? Improbable, but not impossible, especially when you consider how things played out and how it all went down overall, such as how the seizure happened in a very public part of Midway Airport, or how he was going through it without all of his bags. Sure, some of them would have been put through the rounds in the airport, but not all of them. Plus, the fact that everything went down like it did just screams of a plan of some kind. If Juice WRLD felt in any way that he was going to prison, there's no doubt in this person's mind that he would have tried something, anything in order to get out of it. He didn't want to go to jail, and he didn't want to fight the feds, so he took the middle option. He decided to fake his death and make people think he was gone in order to escape punishment, or at least that's one way of looking at it. You can choose whether you believe it or not. Avoiding the 6ix9ine path?
In 2019, he pled guilty to a number of charges and was looking at decades in prison, but will likely receive a reduced sentence for his cooperation.
Okay, so let's suppose that this was the way it went down. Just put your skeptic caps off for a second, okay? Let's ask ourselves, why choose the fake death option over just getting arrested? What do you recall all the stuff that he was caught up with? His bags were full of illegal stuff, and that would have meant serious jail time if he was arrested, convicted, and then jailed. And for all his many faults, Juice WRLD didn't seem like the guy who would have relished being in prison for any stretch of time, especially since he clearly loved making music. But more than that, he likely decided to ensure that he didn't get put in the path of temptation, which in this instance would have been the path of making a plea deal. You see, while there is no doubt that those illegal items were his, he clearly wasn't the guy who made them or orchestrated their arrival in the plane and into Chicago. He clearly had help, likely from some unsavory sources, which would make Juice WRLD a little fish in a big pond. And when the federal authorities get little fish, they try and use them as bait to get the big fish in the pond. This is what happened in 2019 with fellow rapper 6ix9ine. He was a part of the group known as the 9 Trey Bloods, and when he was with them, he helped them grow, get money, get product to various parts of the country, etc. But when the FBI got wind of their collaboration, they sprung a trap, got 6ix9ine arrested along with many members of the 9 Trey Bloods, and then when he was offered a plea deal, he took it and ran. He became the biggest snitch of the decade, maybe the century as we know it so far. His testimony put away many members of the 9 Trey Bloods, and 6ix9ine himself is potentially days or maybe a month away from getting released himself. Why does this matter in the scope that is Juice WRLD? Simple. It's because while 6ix9ine did get the deal and is getting out, he's one of the most hated people in the rap world right now. Most of the rapper community despises 6ix9ine because he was a snitch. Sure, 6ix9ine doesn't care, but that's because he's a punk who just does what he wants to get rich and famous. Juice WRLD isn't that. He's honestly more level-headed despite his addictions, so he would never want to be the snitch that ratted out everyone who ever helped him just to get out of jail. But again, he didn't want to be put in jail, so he had to think of a way that would get him out of all the situations that he found himself in, and thus he could have made a plan to get himself into a hospital, fake his death, and then get out of all of this mess. As the Avengers would say, whatever it takes. How would the fake death option be better? Let's look at everything at a wider angle and scope, shall we? Because you're no doubt wondering how anyone is better in a fake death scenario than being with their family, their friends, their daily lives. Well, as we've already stated, if he is quote dead, then that would mean that no one is looking for him, no one is asking him what he's doing or what he's planning or whatever. He'd be free to do whatever he wants. Plus, given his financial situation of being worth millions, that would mean that he could move or go anywhere in order to get away from it all, such as far away from Chicago or California, the two places where he lived most of his life. Second, that would mean that the feds would have dropped all charges against him because you can't convict a dead man. Others would have taken the fall, like certain people at the airport and such, but most of his family, friends, and crew would be left unharmed and unperturbed. A worthy outcome, don't you think? Plus, as we noted earlier in the video, Juice WRLD understood that the rap world was a dangerous one. He knew that at any moment someone could come to try and take his life, or he would make a mistake that could cost him everything. He got to experience the best part of the rap life, and maybe that was enough for him. He got to prove that he was a good singer by working his songs on SoundCloud. He got picked up by not one, but two publishers. He had hit songs and albums, and on and on. He got to live it up, which the illegal substances more than proved, and when he did, he was able to be happy. But he knew better than anyone that it was on a time clock. So what do you do when you're on the clock? Do you try and savor as many moments as you can? Try and do all you can and then accept your fate when the clock hits zero? Or do you try and subvert the clock and start a new one? That is the question, and you know where we stand on that answer to that. He saw the end coming, so he decided to make a new beginning as a result. The music ensures his legacy.
Are hurting because of this and don't know what to make of it. I'm sorry. Love you and God bless your soul. #legend.
Ask any rapper what is the most important thing to them, and they'll tell you 9 out of 10 it's the music. The people who are in rap for the best reasons are the ones who want to express themselves through their music and make people feel something through their tunes. It's their way of being a part of the world, and that happens both in life and in death. Just think about all the great musicians that have been lost in the world so far, and how their music endures despite them not being around anymore. Now Juice WRLD can say that his legacy is secure because people are listening to his music even more now than ever before. Don't believe me? Look at the digital music charts. Legends has risen in the ranks by a whopping 84,954% to reach number 1 in just a couple of days. Two of his other tracks, Lucid Dreams, both the explicit and clean versions, are sitting at number 2 and 3. So as you can see, his music is soaring right now, which means that those who haven't listened to him before are listening to him now. Plus all the royalties that would go to him now goes to his family, so thus they're taken care of despite him not being around anymore. Given all of that, wouldn't that be the perfect way to fake a death and move on? Knowing that your family is secure, your legacy is secure, and so on and so forth seems perfectly fitting to me. Is he alive or not? After all this, I'm sure you think we're crazy for thinking that Juice WRLD is alive when he's clearly not, and you're right, it's very likely that he's gone. But as with all passings that come too soon, is the desire for it to not be as we see it. Because what is life if not the hope that it gets to live on in the most perilous of times? He is alive in one way. He's alive in the fans that listen to his music and the people who knew him and will miss him. And that is his true legacy. And there you have it, a look at the life and passing of Juice WRLD and all the reasons why he might still be alive. What do you think of our analysis? Are we reading too much into this? Are we just grasping at the straws to wonder if he's alive or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe,